Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.
Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. My name is Ruth Ellen Sanchez and today I am going to be your hostess. This show is sponsored by dailywithdoc.com, and also we have an amazing guest today who is a little bit outside of the norm. We have a very special person to me. I have been seeing Tim since 2018, and he has helped me a great deal with some issues in my body and 6 inches in my head. We all have stuff that goes on, and he's going to explain why that happens. So I am going to bring him on so he can tell you about himself. And this program, of course, is for educational purposes only and is not meant to treat, diagnose, or cure any diseases. All righty, so I am going to spotlight you, Tim, and bring you on. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Tim Marsh. I've been doing body work and PTSD and trauma and a lot of other different things over the years, from yoga instructor, Pilates instructor, martial artist. Then I went into, personal training, and then I studied physical therapy, gave that up. And I kind of just bumped around and found my way. But during that process, in 24 years, I've had, and yes, I keep track, roughly 87,000 hours of people on the table. And I do that not, I say that not to be cocky or arrogant, but to talk about the breadth of the experiences of what I've gone through in the last 24 years.
Excellent.
So, today's topic, did you want me to introduce today's topic?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
please.
Today's topic is called the HPA axis. Not a lot of people know about this axis, but if you look at, there's three organs in our body. You have the hypothalamus, which is your nervous system, your pituitary gland, which is your hormonal system, and then you have the adrenal gland, which is your kidneys. So if you start with the first one, that's called the hypothalamus. So let's just call that our nervous system. Well, the nervous system has a big giant nerve that everybody keeps talking about. It's called the vagus nerve. And it connects for our brain, comes down through our neck and into our stomach. And when it dumps into the stomach, it has a whole bunch of connections in the inner lining of the stomach called the splenic nerve. So when you start talking about the HPA and all these different types of things, let's look at them as unidentified fitness obstacles or health obstacles, because not a lot of people know about it, or if they try to talk about the nervous system, when you start talking about chronic stress or trauma or even frustrations, losing weight, the first thing you have to understand is the nervous system is connected to the hormonal system, and the hormonal system is connected to the adrenal system. So without looking at all three of those pieces, you're not getting a full appreciation to what the body is capable of doing. So if you go and you say, okay, I'm going to watch my diet. Well, if you can't take a deep breath and you can't release your stress because your shoulders are up here by your neck, what's going to happen is you're going to tighten up that vagus nerve. And that vagus nerve is going to affect your stomach, and it's going to affect how your body processes food and also your hormonal levels and your adrenal levels. So when you look at that, that's what everybody thinks is the missing piece. But if that's hyper activated or dysregulated, then it also can affect your hormonal levels and your adrenal system. So I'm here to talk about my experience with those three organs and how I've helped people by digging out their body with adhesions and different health issues.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I know you've done quite a bit of work on me.
Yeah.
So tell us more about what happens when you do that and how the body can react and what the body is holding on to.
Sure. Well, a long time ago, when I was a personal trainer at Equinox, I wound up working with people who were overweight. And what I noticed that when I did body work on them, they were more successful in losing weight. So instead of losing 3 pounds, they would lose 10 to 12 pounds. And I worked with many of them to lose 125, 145 pounds and help them see that their body wasn't moving correctly. So if it wasn't moving correctly, and again, if their shoulders are up here, or they have the forward head posture, or they're so tight they can't take a deep breath, then the body can't relax because of the two systems. You have your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system. So parasympathetic takes your nervous system down, sympathetic system jacks it up. So that's our fight or flight response. So even the chairs that we're sitting in and the computers we're looking at, they have a tendency to bring us forward. And then we get locked in there myofascially, And then we go when we work with somebody and they bang down on their shoulders and it's like, hey, how come my shoulders can't kind of drop down? Well, that's because there's more than just that going on. You have to work on the posture of the body. You have to look at how the foot, if it overpronates and collapses, how does that feed up to the neck upstairs? So a lot of times what my job is I'm like a myofascial muscle postural, and then I haven't even gotten into the fact that I'm a Reiki master and I do a lot of spiritual stuff and I'm very intuitive and very empathic, and a lot of times I'm playing Sherlock Holmes with the body and trying to figure things out. And I work with PTs and I work with orthopedic surgeons. I work with athletes. And what I do is my passion is to try to be the bridge to get the Western and the Eastern to merge together, to work together synergistically. And a lot of times when I'm working with people, they've been through everybody and their grandmother, and they're just missing that one piece. And a lot of times it's the fact that the body's holding that score. All hail Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score.
An amazing book.
Yeah.
It always blows my mind how much our bodies hold in them and how that affects us in every single moment of our lives.
Yeah.
And you also work with people that have traumatic brain injuries.
Yeah, my right before COVID, I got introduced to a young man. He was 24 years old. He was skateboarding, he was drunk, and he snapped his neck and broke his brain and messed up the corpus callosum of his brain. And his mom stopped by our business one day and she was seeing a rolfer, and the rolfer was charging crazy amounts of money for 30 minutes. And she met us, and long story short, he came in a wheelchair. He could barely walk, and now he's walking through our office. I do what's called pain neurogenesis. I have to cause people pain to wake up the brain. Sorry, I sound like Dr. Seuss.
No, you do not. You do not sound like Dr. Seuss. Keep going. You're doing great. Yes. And you have done that to me.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. He's doing really good. I know the gentleman that you're talking about. And when I come in, they're usually going out on every other Tuesday. And he couldn't even walk to his car. And he's walking to the car that his mom drives. I mean, his mom drives, but
yeah, the main thing I want to say about that is the body's ability to heal itself is amazing. Sometimes it just needs a tour guide to understand where to go and to heal itself.
Mhm.
I do the work I do. I know it's not me. I know it's we. I mean, he has a big tribe that helps him. But I've had more touch points on his body, and I've worked physically to realign his fascia and his skeletal structure through the fascia, not chiropractic, all the way down from the top of his head, all the way down to his body, lower feet. And then I burn it back up, and he's now walking. And I do that with a lot of other people, concussion protocols. I specialize in people who've got their bell rung for 2 or 3 times. I think the most person we've ever helped is 7 concussions.
oh my goodness, that's a lot of concussions.
Yeah. So, and car accidents and you name it, I've done it. I've helped people with fibromyalgia. I've helped people with different gut issues with the cooperation of the doctor and the medication and stuff like that.
Excellent. Excellent. So tell us more about HPA axis role in metabolic frustration. And I apologize to everybody, the graphic was wrong. Say later.
Well, as I mentioned before, the HPA is the hypothalamus-pituitary-adrenal axis. So if we are trying to lower our cortisol levels, that stress, a lot of times if our body's holding on to that score, we are the duck and we look like we're calm on the surface, but our legs are paddling like freaking crazy under the water. And what I've noticed over the years is when people are trying to lose weight, the difference that I've been able to help them with is the difference between the heaviness, WEIGHT, and the time frame, which is WAIT, which is waiting. So when you release that body's heaviness and they're able to take a deep breath and they're able to sleep and they're able to feel comfortable in their own body because they're not scanning for danger because they were traumatized when they were younger or they were traumatized in the office because they had a controlling boss or a controlling wife or a controlling partner, whatever, then they can start to regulate and start to relax. So a lot of times when you have people who are frustrated, they're doing everything they need to do, but if they're doing it without being able to be relaxed first, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. So when you're doing yoga and you can't take a deep breath because all these muscles are tight and your shoulders rounded and you're up here and you're elevating your arm and it's trapped neck up here and your head's dropped forward, your chin's forward, there's all kinds of stuff. Then what happens is you're doing yoga, but the yoga's doing you because you can't move correctly. And a lot of times when people come to me and the other therapists we have, our job is to figure these things out, to say, okay, well, you can't quite move. Well, I've had deep tissue before. Yeah, but it's not just one area. It's 6 different things going on at once that need to be figured out. And I think that's the crux of this conversation is looking at how the body's compensation with the skeletal structure, the myofascial structure, the postural structure, how that feeds into the hormonal system, how the hormonal system feeds into the adrenal system.
Right. Yeah, I know for me, when I first came to you, I was having trouble with my right leg. I could barely
Yeah.
walk.
hmm
And I had a lot of emotional stress prior to that injury that I had years ago,
Oh, I remember you saying it. Yeah.
creating itself all over again and on steroids. And I was driving limos at the time, and to get out of the car and try and help your passengers out of the car and then pick up their suitcase out of the trunk, it took
hmm
everything in my being to force myself to stand up straight and walk like I wasn't in severe. I mean,
hmm
it felt like everything was tearing, like severe pain, gritting my teeth, smiling, saying, yes, ma'am, I'll pick you
Yep.
up. Just call me when
hmm
your flight arrives next week, all that stuff that I would do. And
hmm
it was very taxing on me. And I mean, how long did it even take to dig out my leg? And then all
Yeah, it
of the
took
other
about a
body
year and a
parts.
half, about a year and a half.
Yeah. And then all of the other body parts that I have
hmm
trying to manipulate and maintain all of a sudden had issues. It was
Yeah.
very interesting to me how it's so connected. You could be working on my thigh and my right shoulder will hurt.
hmm
But the bottom of my foot, when you're working on my shoulder, it just blows my
hmm
mind.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I don't believe that the massage therapists out there get a lot of recognition for what they can do for people. Um, there are people out there that are called fascia mashers. All they want to do is drive elbows into people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do cause people pain, but I cause people pain to open up adhesions. But you'll never see me drive down an adhesion without having a plan of action. Last
Right.
thing I want to do is dig into here, because once I dig into here, I'm affecting the vagus nerve. If I'm affecting the vagus nerve, and I have a client that has Crohn's disease, or they have irritable bowel, or they have celiac, all this stuff, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
My actions have a direct reflect to the gut brain. So I have to be authentic. I have to look at every one of my actions, and I have to make sure that it coincides with all the different modalities that you're doing.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, I mean it's not an easy thing to understand. And my what I'm talking about today is just a brief overview. Um, I recommend you go and people do research on the chemical structures, understand what the different hormones are and stuff like that. But the
Mm-hmm.
bottom line is, if anybody's out there and they've tried all these different modalities, they've tried everything, then usually the last piece of that puzzle is going to be the myofascial web of the body, and how the shoulder being tipped forward is going to feed into the pec minor, which is going to have you breathe more up here in your neck if it's tight. So then you release that, and all of a sudden the shoulder goes back, and all of a sudden they breathe into their chest, and they're like, wow, I feel comfortable. Or somebody says, okay, well, I have this pain in the middle of my shoulder. All right, well, how does that pain relate to, if the pain's on this side, how does it relate to the hamstring on the opposite side? And then when you open it up, and then they're laying on the table flat, they're going to bed that night with their back flat instead of arched, which means that's your fight or flight response. And then the hip flexor, and then the psoas, but that's a whole different ballgame.
Oh yeah. I remember the psoas.
Yeah, yeah, that's the big
Oh,
fight or flight muscle. That's the one that holds on to a lot of trauma, and there's a lot of people who are doing psoas work, and
mhm.
at least the ones I'm coming across, they've gone too hard, or people have done too much. They've used different tools that are too intense,
Right.
and that psoas is jacked up and locked up and saying, I'm never going to let go. And again, that affects the whole carriage of the body, and it affects the fight or flight response. And it also, most people don't know, has a correlation to the diaphragm.
Mm.
So if the psoas is tight, then our diaphragm is no longer straight. It's kind of tipped. If it's kind of tipped, what's going on inside the body? What's going on inside the brain? What's going on inside our breathing parts and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not right. Nothing is functioning properly.
Right.
Yeah. We have a question
Okay.
that I'm trying to find now that I posted. Okay. So Joy would like to know, is there
Mhm.
a general starting point for people who have no idea where to start, specifically related to kinesthetics or stretching, movement, and gut disorders? Also, the pain to activate the brain can you explain that?
um, Can you say that again? There was a
Okay.
lot of pieces to that. So
All right. Well, let's start with can you
how to start? Yeah, right.
yeah, how to start. So is there a general starting point for people who have no idea where to start? And then
Yeah, I mean, there's modalities. They're not really well looked at because they're ancient, but there's somatic body work.
mhm.
You have Alexander technique. You have Feldenkrais. You have Reiki. But I think the biggest thing to start with is what I start with my clients. I'm lucky because they come in with this big list of things they've had and all the people they've worked, and all I have to do is the exact opposite of what other people have done. But I would say, Joy, if you're starting, it's usually the areas that make you uncomfortable are the areas that you want to explore. Um, that could be uh, sitting alone and meditating. That could be seeing a qualified therapist. Um, it's a hard question to ask because I'm so used to people telling me what they have.
Mhm.
So if Joy can just really quickly give me a little bit more, I can answer her question a lot better.
Okay. So while she's doing that, she also
Mhm.
wanted you to talk about oh, my screen just went blank. I bumped the cord. Also, the pain to activate the brain. Can you explain that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, the thing about when you have when you try to release your body through rainbows and puppy dogs, okay? So yoga, aqua therapy, anything that's water like and kumbaya and all this stuff, right? You can't go around the pain, you can't go under the pain. You have to go through the pain to get to the other side. So what's the opposite of pain but pleasure? So a lot of times when you work with massage therapists or PTs, they're working on what's called trigger points. Well, those trigger points hold nerve points and they hold emotions and stuff like that. So, what I try to do is I find people's pain points. I find these points and with a compassionate touch, with a compassionate awareness, not some fashion master who's trying to grind down and make them cry and break them down, but a strategic approach to look at what's going on when I touch this. And a lot of times when I hit certain areas on the body, and there's tons of massage therapists out there, thousands of them that have that gift. And we're blessed. But the reason we're blessed is because we were mostly traumatized ourselves. But what I suggest is if somebody is trying to wake up the brain, if you have traumatic brain injury, the brain just gets kind of locked. And what happens is these people come in and they're so slow and they're so heavy. And a lot of times it's because if they did get concussion on this side of their head, there's a scar tissue there. And when you release that scar tissue, you're able to release the chemical parts of the brain. You can release the skull, you can do the cranial sacral. But more importantly, what you do is look at, okay, if this has got hit, how does this side and this side react to that hit? How does that shoulder react? So a lot of times it's reprocessing the body. It's causing them pain to get them aware or wake up the brain because the brain's going, okay, where am I? I'm traumatized. Now that's with traumatic brain injuries. I also work with people who have oxygen deprived brain injuries where they die. They're brought back to life from the bathtub because they drowned and they're brought back. That's different because their brain is like jello. There's no hardness to it. And that's a tough one because those are harder to work with. But the object is, do we give up on them? Do we stop and say, okay, well, yeah, the young gentleman I worked with, he was told many times that he wouldn't be able to walk and he might as well get used to it. Well, maybe it's because I'm a Taurus, maybe I'm stubborn, I don't know, but I just don't give up. And I believe that the body can heal itself if we provide the right vehicles.
Right.
So
Yeah.
hopefully that helped. Hopefully that helped Joy.
Yes, she says, I knew he was a Taurus immediately.
Oh, really? 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 You didn't know about the
And she says, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I know that young man that you work with that they told him would never walk,
Yeah.
that walks.
Yeah, I
And
mean, if people
and
want
he's,
to, I don't want to promote, but if am I allowed to do that on this show?
yes, you can promote
Okay.
yourself. Yes.
All right. If you get on my Facebook page, I think it's just Tim Marsh. I also have one called Golden Dragon Healing. There's a couple videos that I posted of Matt when I was working with him, when he was crawling, when I I had him leaning up against the wall, punching a bag, screaming out loud, "I don't need a wheelchair." Um, I've had tremendous people help me in the process. My business partner, Melissa, she helped me. I mean, all we're trying to do is throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks.
Yes. And it's super important because you've done that to me with some stuff, made me say things while I'm
Oh yeah,
doing things. Yes. And cussing
I
at you
have
at
that.
the same time.
I have that gift. People, I've been hit many times. My job is, if I'm not making people cry or have some kind of catharsis, I'm not doing what I was put on this earth to do.
Right. But you also make us scream that we're worthy or whatever it is that
Yeah, it's okay.
you are working on me.
Hmm.
And you would hit an area,
Yeah.
a muscle.
Yep.
And I was in my trauma.
Yeah.
I was fighting for my life in
Yes, you
my
were.
mind and in my
Hmm.
trauma. And
Hmm.
you kept making me repeat your address. Where are you? And you
Yeah.
would make me repeat my address and your address. And then you would make me say, I'm safe. I am safe.
Yeah.
I am whole.
Hmm.
I am not there. I am
Right.
here. I am at your address.
Hmm.
And other things that you like with Matt, I don't need a wheelchair. Matt cooks now, right? He like
He's
literally
going to
starting to.
start. He was a chef.
Okay.
He wants to get back to it. Um, right now, I think the longest he's walked is up and down the football
Mm.
field 3 times.
That's very far
Hmm.
for somebody who couldn't stand by himself.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I
It's
mean, COVID, universe, God, whatever you would say, brought Matt to me, and it woke up this passion because I worked with people with strokes for
mhm.
years. And, you know, I just know that, what I'm about to say is my passion.
Okay.
And this industry that we're a part of, we have to team up together. It's not them against us. It's not us against them. It's working synergistically.
Mhm.
And over my 24 years, I have butt heads with the industry so many times.
Yes.
And every single day I wake up and I want people to know that fact. I want to know that if I'm working with somebody that was traumatized in the military and I touch them and I see the color yellow, and all of a sudden they go, oh my God, that's the color of the wall that I was against when I was being whatever, right? It's that kind of stuff that wakes up the brain, wakes up the subconscious, it wakes up everything. So if I can take that information and I can tell their therapist, now we have a whole different focus coming at it.
Right. I love that you partner with people's therapists and other massage therapists and other, um,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
love
Matt's got a
teaching.
whole team. I don't even know what all of their facets are, but you work very closely together.
Mhm. Because I think the biggest thing of all, especially now where we are, where this whole society is, it's not about we, it's not about me, it's about we.
Mm.
And we need to be able to team up. The industry needs to understand that just because we're massage therapists and we're not chiros or orthopedic surgeons, we have an ability to have more touch points,
Mhm.
more relation points. We develop trust, right? And most importantly, we have the ability to touch their body and manipulate them and help them.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It is a
It is.
very beautiful thing.
And I love to teach. And I love to have former, clients. That's why we have 6 therapists, because they're all they're still clients of mine, but they came up and said, hey, I want to join you. And I'm like, let's rock this. Let's do this.
Mhm. Yeah, you have a great team
So
of people. All
yeah,
right, so we have a
very
couple
blessed.
questions come
Okay.
in, or so Carrie B. Hello,
Hmm.
Carrie. What does Tim think of the massage guns that are sold by places like Costco, and what is the best way to use them? I have had a, a bad back injury requiring much psoas work, stem
Hmm.
cells for piriformis, and therapy
Okay.
to gain walking ability. Mostly good, but hips and IT band, oh, that dang IT band, get painful after long stretches of travel, like airline trips.
Okay. Well, remember what I'm about to say is my professional opinion, and I'm allowed to have this opinion. I know it's going to smack against the industry. When you use a trigger gun, you are going superficial. Okay, so if we look at the fascia as 7 different layers, if I use a trigger gun, the highest I get, I'm only going to get 3 layers. Okay, when you start talking about issues with the lower back, usually if you had it for a chronic period of time, which means chronos over time, not acute, but long term, that means you've got to dig the fascia out from the skeletal structure. You've got to go deep. That's what I meant when I was answering Joy's question. You
Mm.
have to go deep. You have to you have to understand how to move the fascia away from the bone,
Mm.
And a lot of fascia people, I mean, that comes from Rolfing. That's a whole different beast. I studied Rolfing. I wanted to be a Rolfer, but I'm not paying that kind of money. And I was lucky enough. I learned it on my own. And I had some great Rolfers over the times teach me. So I'm like, okay. And I just pick it up and put it in my toolbox.
Mhm.
But when you use a trigger gun, you're going superficial. And then when you start looking at possible issues with the SI joint or anything like that, if that hamstring is glued down and externally rotated into the femur, then anytime you're stretching, you're not going to move that joint. And what happens is the neck joint above it or below it is going to become hypermobile, very loose. And a lot of times when that gets loose, that famous muscle, the piriformis, which is a big external rotator, locks down and seizes up. And then we go in there and we drive our elbow in there, but we don't realize there's a big giant adhesion. When I drive my elbow, that's going directly right back up into the lower back and into the psoas through the lower back that it attaches to at the lumbar spine.
Mm-hmm. I've had that experience. It was
Yeah.
beautiful.
So the answer was her name Kylie?
Carrie.
Sorry. Carrie, my advice to you would be, if you're looking to get yourself help and get out of pain and get back into life, you're going to have to find someone like me. We're not easy to find, but you can ask questions. Also, the other thing is, I have people come in to see me. I have people come from Wisconsin and California and Ohio and Delaware. And also, if she reaches out, I can do a virtual session on her and try to figure it out. But, nobody gets left behind.
Right. No, you don't leave anybody behind.
Nope.
And then she also wanted to know, have you seen and I know you and I have actually had a conversation about this in the beginning when I first started, the Fascia Blasters program.
Oh, yeah. No, Ashley Black, wonderful, wonderful therapist. She has the fascia blaster. But again, that's going maybe 4 or 5. The fascia blaster is not going to be able to take the whole entire fascia and flip it all at once.
Right.
So yes, I mean, what people would say, I would much rather have the fascia blaster than the trigger gun. I would much rather have a PVC pipe instead of a foam roller. But you got to get worked up to that.
Yeah, that's hard. The
Yeah.
PVC pipe is yeah.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Well, it hurts, but it's not about pain. It's about, can you take that quad that's externally rotated and can you flip it back so then you can start to adjust the sacrum and the lower back and all that stuff. And
right.
when you try to do it with those other vehicles and modalities, that's not going to work. Because it's dug in. It's like a tick. It's dug in and it's like, I'm happy here. And the only way I'm coming out is if you pull me out.
Yeah, I remember that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what muscle goes to my femur and my thigh muscles.
Oh yeah,
Literally
especially
attached.
the trauma point.
Yeah, the trauma point.
You were dug so deep into the middle of that quad, it was locked and it was glued into the bone. And every time you moved your leg, it wasn't sliding. It was going, okay, I'm going to let the origin insertion work way too hard because I can't talk between the 2 points.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And then we have Julio. He says, hi, Mr. Tim. Great lecture.
Hi, Julio.
It's a great lecture. Question.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
May one say that your healing is about helping the person's awakening soul awareness through or by using the hypothalamus brain area, then vagus nerve, the parasympathetic system, parasympathetic nervous system,
Yep,
to activate the unknown divine intelligence? Is this how Mr. Joe Dispenza healed himself or helped himself to get healed? You may rephrase the question.
No. I know exactly what he's talking about. And yes, that's what Joe Dispenza. I don't know him. I've studied his work. I think he's an amazing practitioner. But yes, that's the key. We are the sum total of everything that's ever happened to us.
Yeah.
So Joe, if I'm not mistaken, he was riding a bicycle, got in a horrific accident. he was all jacked up and all messed up. And what he did is he took it upon himself. But remember what he did. He went through the pain, not around it, not underneath it, not rainbow puppies, dogs up above it. He went through it. And that's where really true healing happens. Whether it's me because I was traumatized when I was younger, many different times, I knew that I had to go through it. Otherwise, it would hold on to me for my whole entire life. And that's what led me to where I am.
And Carrie says, awesome, thank you. And Julio
thank you, Carrie.
says, thank you.
Thank you, Ruby.
Carrie has another question. It says, which this is great. And you guys can raise your hands and you can actually ask Tim your questions. Just use that raise hand icon at the bottim of your screen.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I see that stuff.
Well, no, I mean for the listening audience, the
okay.
Zoom audience.
You have to understand, I love to teach.
I know, and I'm loving this. This is fantastic. This is fantastic.
Bring them on.
All right, so Carrie says, my psoas work felt like my lower back was extracted through my leg via my pelvis. Tears shot out of my eyes. Oh, Carrie, I know what that feels like.
She knows exactly what you're feeling.
All right.
No, it's the psoas is it's a very emotional muscle. Because of my trauma, because of the abuse that I took when I was younger, I've had to cry many times. But eventually you get to a point where you're like, I'm all cried out. There's nothing left.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do psoas work, that is the deepest, most intimate work we can do for each other.
Right. Okay. So we have a couple hands up. So Albert, you can unmute yourself and I'll actually bring you on because you have a camera on.
Hi there, Tim.
Hey.
My question to you is, being here in South Africa and as a health coach, what credentials would I look for in somebody like you that I can refer clients to and guide people to?
The first
you seem
thing
to be pretty special, and yeah, it's going to be good to find somebody who's as...
I'm very blessed. First thing I would do is I would look at, if you're working with a therapist and they don't have a checkered past, then they're not going to have the empathic ability to help you get through pain, because they have to transmute pain in order to control pain.
Okay.
So, yeah, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. You've got to go through the experience to be able to talk about it and know what's going on.
Right. We're not just talking to somebody that went to a massage school and said, okay, I went to a bunch of conferences and I did this. Now, if you weren't baptized in the pain by the time you were 3 years old or further, then you would want to go through somebody that at least knows your score.
Correct. Analogy I always use is, when women go through childbirth, men can't talk about childbirth. So this is what you're saying.
Yeah, and also, there's another great book that people probably have even forgotten about. It's called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. It's a great book, and Nick Nolte was in a movie, but even that book, but he still had to go through the hard work. And this is what pain does. Let pain be the wisdom of your life, not the one who causes the pain. So let your pain be your wisdom. Learn from the wisdom. Get everything you do. Work on whatever you need to do, right? Work on it. And just don't go ahead and say, okay, I just went and I had this amazing experience. No, make sure you have multiple experiences, not just one, because it's not one and done. I guarantee you, I'm 56 years old, soon to be 57. And I was estranged from my biological father when I was 5 years old. You talk about pain, he's now my best friend. I connected with him last year after I went through a divorce of 23 years, right? And I realized I was being controlled by people who wanted to control me. And that's all I ever knew because I was raised into this traumatizing tribe. Now, what I did is said, screw this, I'm going to go ahead and create my own tribe. But to get back to your question, make sure people can meet you at your pain point so then they can meet you right at that precipice, right at that spot, and then take you through it. So a lot of times when I work with people, I tell them, and Ruth Ellen can vouch for this, I tell them, I'm the lion, you're the gazelle, you're in my mouth, you're about to die. Roll your eyes back, die a peaceful death so we can be reborn.
Great stuff. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you, Albert. That
Pleasure.
was beautiful. All right. And Joy, if you could unmute yourself, then you can ask Tim your question.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Joy.
Hi. Hi. Thank you for answering my questions earlier. Okay, this is maybe not a quick question, but I have an accessory navicular in my right ankle, an extra bone. So like
Okay.
everything's jacked up, nothing's attached right, and there's tons of pressure. Anything I can start doing myself to work this out?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's my wheelhouse because I do work with a lot of plantar fasciitis, Morton's neuroma,
Yes.
and
Yes.
stuff
Thank
that you
you.
talk. Okay. So the number one thing you have to understand is what is the muscle that's underneath the gastroc? It's called the soleus, right?
Okay.
Okay, the soleus is our second heart. As we take a step, it pumps the blood back up. So your
I'm also a
soleus,
nurse, so I do have an understanding of what you're saying. Okay. Okay.
awesome. Okay, so your pump is locked. Okay, so
Okay.
what you have to do is you've got to dig out. If you look at the two heads of the gastroc, one controls the outside, one controls the middle. And right now, most likely, your gastroc is one big giant hornet's nest.
Okay.
So what you do is you split it apart, get them to control one part or the other. I would spend a lot of time working on the proneal longus and brevis.
Proneal longus. Okay.
Okay, and the reason I would do that is because you know what the calcaneus is?
No, please enlighten me.
Okay, that's your heel bone.
Okay.
Okay, and
All
then
right.
above it is called the
That's where
talus.
I can receive a lot of pain as well. Like it's hard for me to put my
Right.
heel down first.
Exactly, because what's happening, this is going to be hard to say, but what's happening is when you're stepping, your calcaneus and your talus, which is called your subtalar joint, is supposed to evert. It's supposed to swing out. Everybody, and remember, I look at commonalities, okay? So what I'm about to say, people are going to go, oh my God, he's making a generalization. Yeah, well, this generalization has made me very successful at what I do. So, and we have to think outside the box.
I don't think our crowd is going to be judging you like that, sir. I don't think
cool.
our crowd.
Okay, well, I'm used to it. So
Of
anyway,
course, it's a trauma response.
So well, it's also a daily existence because
Right.
I'm battling the industry.
Yeah.
So anyway, your heel bone is tucked in and it's locked. And
Yes.
what that does is that grabs the transverse arch of the foot, which is your arch of the foot, and it clenches it up. And you wind up supinating on the outside of your foot, and all this is locked up.
Yes, you know exactly what I'm saying.
So what's happened is you're walking around like a cat on an acoustic tile above a tub of water, and it's
Tippy
going,
toes.
I'm never letting go.
Yes.
So what I would do is I would work on understanding, most likely this is not an isolated event. So I would say you probably have, if it's your right foot or left foot, you probably have some kind of history with your quad or your hamstring, or maybe the outside edge, and then that feeds into your hip hiking. And then they say, they probably said you have weak glute, but you don't.
I
You can't
don't, but I
activate
have
your glute.
neural
Yeah, so
movement disorders now that I think are related to gluten. So
okay. So
yeah.
somewhere along the line, there's some kind of external rotation in your
Okay.
hip, the femur, and your tibia. And
Okay.
when you get that addressed, then you can start to stand off of the outside of the leg and recruit the other leg to take more of that hit.
Okay. I noticed
Does that,
the other side of my body does compensate. It does. The left side is
yeah,
so tight because it's trying to compensate for the right.
right.
Okay,
So what
great.
you would do is I would spend time on that side.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Hope it
Thank
helps.
you, Joy. And first, before we go to Michelle, I just want to give a shout out to Rebecca Dukes, who's joining us on YouTube. We miss you, girl, and we love you, and we are sending lots and lots of love to you. Lots. All right, Michelle, if you could unmute yourself and talk to Tim.
Hello. I
Hi,
have
Michelle.
a similar condition where I have accessory ligaments in joints, quite painful.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
So mainly in the hands and the back. So would it be
Where are the joints? Like what part of
so
the hand?
fingers and the back part is underneath the rib cage. So it's
Okay.
not really a ligament, but it's the same type of tissue.
Okay. Do you have a hard time taking a deep breath?
Yes.
Okay. So you are the perfect example of the HPA, right? So that means you can't take a deep breath, which means every time you're taking a deep breath, the muscles of that side are getting tighter and tighter and tighter.
Yes.
So when you start looking at this being the distal part and this being the proximal part, right? If you have an extra bone or you have extra, what we have to do is we have to make as much space from the beginning of that to the end of that to make up for the fact that there's an extra bone or ligament or whatever else. So I would be willing to bet that your bicep is glued in and your shoulders tip forward, which means everything you're doing is coming at the expense of your hand.
Okay. Well, wow. So what do I do about it then?
Well, that's the tough part, because the first thing you have to do is, have you had body work at all?
A massage therapist, but no, not like what you do.
Okay. If you look up in your area, deep tissue specialists, and you look up their credentials. Remember what I told the gentleman from Africa, right?
Right.
South Africa. Okay. Same thing. You want to look at somebody who most likely they're going to be older because we've seen it. And then you're going to look at them, and then what you're going to do is you're going to start to dig out. Let me see. How can we do this? Okay. Do you have a very tight tricep?
Yes.
Okay. What I would do is I would lay on the floor. You have a foam roller?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I would lay on the floor, and what I would do is I would put the roller right in the middle of your tricep. Okay, now that's going to probably hurt a lot, but what you're trying to do is get that to open up to allow the radius and the ulna, these two bones. So you're probably overpronated, and when you try to supinate, you can't quite get that level.
Yep, not at all.
Okay, so that means you're kind of caught.
Mm-hmm.
So those two bones wrap around each other, and what happens is they get stuck. And what we're trying to do is get them to go side by side. The moment they're side by side, then the brain can go, oh, wait a minute. You mean I don't have to go all the way this way? I have room over there, but it won't do that if you can't access it.
Okay.
Okay, and that's what I mean when we talk about me working with traumatic brain injuries. The brain is only going to go where it knows to go. And when you take a look at some famous studies, there was a bunch of marine biologists that took an octopus and put it into a tank full of crabs. And whenever that octopus got bit by the crab, it never went in the same spot ever again. That's us. So if you're stuck in the pronation, you need to have a therapist go, oh, okay, yeah, well, you're stuck in pronation. So let me see if I can get you to supinate.
Okay.
Right? And once you get the supinate, then you take all this and it unravels it, pulls it back, the scapula pops back, the neck relaxes, and you can finally get rid of the stuff that's happening in the back of your head.
Oh my gosh. Oh, God bless.
I'm very intuitive, so this is what I do. So I'm reading you right now. So
Yeah. Wow.
So
Thank
I hope
you.
it helps.
Just understanding it. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That was awesome.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. That was awesome, Tim. So Corey C., who's here in our Zoom audience, says, wow, thank you for this exposure to a unique specialist. Thank you for being here. It's really awesome. And Albert has another question.
Bring it on, Albert.
Yeah. Hi again, Tim. So my question that's come to mind now is, how have you helped people? You mentioned fibromyalgia at the beginning of the show. So how have you helped people who have fibromyalgia to get through their ordeal?
Okay, well, fibromyalgia is diagnosed by, it used to be called chronic pain syndrome. Now, and then what they did is they went, okay, so we're going to lump it in, we'll call it fibromyalgia. Now, fibromyalgia is real. I mean, I've had a lot of clients, but when you look at it, they're diagnosed with 8 different pain points or 8 different trigger points. And if you map those trigger points out, so if somebody has a right foot that is very painful, and then all of a sudden they have a right knee that's painful and a right hip, if you connect those dots, you can see the myofascial map. And all you do is you try very hard, because you can't push hard with people with that, because you're going to set them off. That's where I do something very rarely that I do, which is I go softer. But I may do a little bit of discomfort. But what you're trying to do is get the brain to stop sending the signal through that channel and go, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to ping this out and get this here, right? And then you start to get the skeletal structure, the muscular structure, but it also really needs to be addressed with the body's chemistry also. But usually people who come to me that have fibromyalgia, I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'm putting these pieces together and I'm looking at how the whole structure is causing the brain to go, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Right? And the one common denominator that a lot of these people have is their traps are up here. They're very tight. Every person that I've ever come across fibromyalgia, they always have tight traps, tight chest, tight neck. So you get them to take a deep breath. You get them to relax. You relax the HPA. And then you start unraveling it.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you. All right. So is there, it looks like I might have one more question. Not sure. Oh, Julio just said, thank you. Nice explanation.
No problem.
All right. So is there anything that you would like to, because we're at the top of the hour.
Okay.
So is there anything you would like to wrap up with?
Yeah, I would, the people that reached out that had those issues, if you can give them my contact info.
Mhm.
What I also do for people is I have people who reach out on Facebook. I have people who just, tech, this stuff, right?
Yes.
If you can give me their contact information, then what I can also do is help them possibly find a therapist in the area that I can maybe interview for them and say, hey, you know what? These two guys, when I talk to, they seem like they're drinking the Kool-Aid, and then maybe we can help them. Or if they want to, they come and see me. I've had people do that.
I will do that for sure.
Okay.
And if anybody needs that information, and I don't think I have Michelle's information, you can contact me at ruthellen@dailywithdoc.com for that. Or you can, better yet, go to questions@dailywithdoc.com. And then if I don't see it, somebody else will. Okay. So we have another comment from Phyllis saying, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Tim and Ruth Ellen, for sharing.
Awesome.
You
Great opportunity.
is amazing. And I'm looking forward to having you on again, because we've talked about a next segment. So
Yeah,
sure to make that happen.
I would love to make that happen, because all we're going to do is just explore this topic deeper.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm very excited. So if my co-host can join me on the screen, and if you could spotlight yourself. This is our magnificent team, and I got to change my seat. Okay. All right, and then Sherry, yes. And AJ, I'm going to talk about you first when it comes. Patty says, great show. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate you. Okay, so AJ, who is not having his camera on and not spotlighted, is our digital marketing director, and he makes sure that we get out on the 15 plus platforms that this is going to be shown on. So thank you so much, AJ, and he does so much more than just that. He is amazing, and we love him. And of course, Rebecca Duke's out there. Thank you so much for even creating this platform for us to be sharing information like Tim's and all that. It's just amazing to be able to do this. And then Albert, we've met, and he is from South Africa, and it's in 11 o'clock at night for you.
Wow.
Or 10 p.m. And he's here with us, and he's amazing, and he is also part of our phone team. So if you have a question or want to contact a certified holistic health coach, that phone number is 855-949-3377. And if it's in the middle of the night, you know that Albert will be answering that phone call, because it'll be daytime for him. So thank you for that, Albert. And then we have Kaylee, who is our student intern and also our digital marketing support. And thank you for being out there on social media and helping us promote Daily with Doc and all the other things that you do that nobody even knows. And then, of course, we have Marilyn, who is Miss Speedy Fingers, and she is in here. And that's the good thing about being on Zoom with us, is because if you can't take notes as fast as our guests are talking, you can take a picture of the chat because she's getting most of it down, and she even looks things up and gets more information. So way to go, Marilyn. I don't know what we'd do without you. And then we have Phyllis, who is an amazing person in helping with that, and also out on the different platforms and commenting, bringing questions in. And she is also very special to us because a lot of us are here because we heard Dr. Wallach on the radio, and her husband helped make that happen. So thank you, Phyllis, and I'm so happy you were here today. And then we have Sherry, who is part of the tech crew, and she takes what I'm sending out and she pushes it out on the other platforms. And she's an amazing woman. And next week or soon, I'm not sure exactly when, we're going to have Sherry talk about fermenting and teach us how to make coleslaw in a healthy way with no chemicals that you can just make at home. It'll save you money and give you some really good probiotics in that food. So thank you very much. Also, this program was for educational purposes and not meant to treat, diagnose, or cure any diseases. And the information we've given is from a professional who knows what he's talking about, and we are very grateful for him. And if your question did not get answered, or if you have a question that was not pertaining to today's topic, please email us at questions@dailywithdoc.com. And thank you so much, everyone. And thank you again, Tim. I am so grateful that you were here. And
it was fun.
It was fun. And it was funny because yesterday I'm in Tim's office and he's got his elbow in my thigh and he's talking about how he's ready to start doing podcasts because I've been bugging him for 2 years. And he said, "Oh, I need to do that. I'm ready." And I said, "Good, because our guest just canceled on me this morning." So here we are. Thank you again. And thank you everyone out there. We really appreciate all of you, everyone on Facebook, YouTube. I love our loyal viewers on YouTube, Rumble, and we have some good conversations over there. Thank you again, and thank you everyone. And I hope I'm not forgetting anything. I think I got it covered. So we will see you tomorrow. And tomorrow we have, oh gosh, it has escaped me who we have tomorrow. Cassandra. Yes, we have Cassandra back on tomorrow. And so we look forward to seeing you then. And then Friday, of course, we have pharmacist Ben Fuchs. And we did change our viewing the days that we're on. So we are on we are no longer on Monday and Tuesday, but we are here Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Have a great day, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. So take care. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.